Hi, everyone. This is Heather Teplitz with the National Apartment Association. I'm the Director of Business Development. We're really excited to be able to offer this webinar to you all. We have been working with Jefferson Davis with Competitive Edge for a number of years on exhibitor training, more geared towards the education conference that we have in June. But this year we wanted to also be able to offer to our exhibitors for the Student Housing Conference his expertise. So we put together the Exhibitor Resource Center that lives on the Student Housing Conference website. So I encourage you and your marketing teams to go visit the site. There's lots of great information posted, lots of how-to articles. We also are recording this webinar, and we will post that on the site later this week. So this is new for the Student Housing Conference, so we would appreciate any feedback that you have. With that, I'm excited that you guys have joined the webinar. Jefferson's really going to dive into the increasing your brand awareness and driving qualified traffic to your booth. So with
all right,
that,
well, thanks, Heather, and thank you to everybody who's taken time out of your schedule to log in to this educational webinar. You know, things are changing so fast that if you're not keeping up, it feels like we're falling behind. So the fact that you're with me today tells me that you're committed to continual learning and you're looking for ways to improve your exhibit program. Many of you have probably seen me around the NAA Educational Conference for the last several years. We've been doing the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center webinars, and we've been at the show doing exhibit effectiveness evaluations. And so my background's pretty simple. I'm kind of a self-admitted trade show junkie. I always tease people I'm on a 12-step program. I think I'm 11 steps in. But on a serious note, I've always been just extremely committed to how do we really take the big investment of human and financial capital that we invest in exhibit and event marketing, and how do we leverage it so it supports our core business objectives and it delivers measurable financial value beyond cost. So for the last, hard to believe, 30 years now, I've really been on the hunt for what is the difference between companies that make expensive appearances, where they show up, they fly the brand flag, they scan some cards, they hand out some swag, and then they go on to the next show, compared to companies who really get massive financial value from trade shows. And I think I've cracked the code. I wrote about it in my book, Trade Show Turnaround. And by the way, since you're on this webinar today, if you'd like a free copy of Trade Show Turnaround, just send me an email at jefferson@tradeshowturnaround.com, and I will send you a copy of the ebook. And it really outlines a formula, and then it goes into specific perspectives, how we look at trade shows, and then it goes into strategic practices. So I'm happy to send that to everybody who's logged in here today. Just drop me an email, and I'll send it to you right after the webinar. So let's get started here. I'm assuming that because you are exhibiting at the Student Housing Conference and Exposition, that you're looking to grow your business, that you're looking to drive customers, trying to increase revenue. Peter Drucker, one of America's really most legendary business gurus, I think he said it really well. He said, you know, there's only really two things that drive business growth and revenue for a company. He said, number one is marketing. So that's what we're talking about here today, marketing, and specifically exhibit marketing. And number two, innovation. And innovation in product, innovation in service, innovation in selling models, innovation in marketing models, innovation in customer delivery models. And everything else in business, Mr. Drucker said, is an expense. So a lot of companies spend a lot of time on, improving their product and improving their service. Sometimes they're not spending enough time on really innovating their marketing, specifically their exhibiting and trade show marketing. So that's what we want to talk about today. And another one of my favorites, Jim Rohn, business philosopher, really defined, what are the secrets? What are the keys to effective marketing, to delivering marketing that really works? And I thought Jim Rohn said it so eloquently. He said, first of all, you got to have something good to say, right? So we got to think about who your customer is, what your product is, what problems or opportunities you present. And then you've got to take that knowledge and that content and you've got to articulate it well. So he said, have something good to say, and we're going to put you through some exercises today to maybe help you sharpen your marketing communication saw, and then say it well. And then he said also that we have to say it often. Once is never enough. And I'm going to add to Jim's great keys to marketing success by saying we got to say it through multiple marketing media or channels. So with that in mind, I want to launch our first poll of the afternoon here. Take a look at the graphic on the screen here. And what I would like to ask you is, now at this point in how you execute your exhibit program, typically how many media do you use to market your exhibit participation? The poll is live now. Take a moment and click the radio dial button that applies, and I'll give you just a moment. We're at about 50% of you have polled so far. If you're just getting dialed in and you're still distracted by your email or your cell phone, for these next 30, 45 minutes, you might want to set that aside. We're going to cover some really powerful content here today. Okay, we're at 90%. Thank you. Let me share the results here so you can kind of get a sense of what your colleagues are doing. And so it looks like the vast majority of us, 60% of us, are in the 1 to 2 media range. We've got 30% of us that are in that 5 to 7 range. So I think that really raises the question, which is a really good question, is how many media should we use to market our exhibit? My thought is as many media as you have the time, the skill set, and the budget to handle. As many as possible. The more, the merrier. And people often ask me, one of the biggest questions I get as a trade show marketing consultant, trainer, and advisor, people ask me all the time. They say, Jefferson, what is the single best media for pre-marketing my exhibit? And my answer is always the same. There is no single best media. The magic is in the mix. Different people pay attention to and engage with different media. So use as many media as you possibly can. And we're going to walk you through how to think about this and how to put all this together here today. So thanks for sharing with me on that. Let's keep on rolling. Okay, so when it comes to exhibiting, we think about success, and to me, a successful exhibit program does two things. Number one, visibly, directly supports your company's core business objectives, primarily in the areas of marketing, customer relationship management, and sales. Marketing, CRM, and sales. And second, it delivers measurable financial value beyond cost. So if your exhibit program is optimized, it's doing those two things. It's supporting core business objectives visibly, and it's delivering measurable financial value beyond cost. So what I've been on the hunt for the last 30 years for is how do you make that happen? What do you do? Of all the stuff that you can focus your time and energy on with regard to a trade show, what are the leverage points? What are the critical success factors? And I think I've uncovered them. And the reason I can say that is not only have I applied and focused on them with my exhibiting experience, but the hundreds and hundreds of clients that I've helped turn their trade show around from an expensive appearance to a profitable investment. And of those companies where we've done tracking, I've been able to trace over $750 million in combined results. And one of the problems that we get into as exhibitors is we spend 95% of our pre-show time. We spend it on what I call logistics. Well, what do I mean by that? Get the space, get the exhibit, get the graphics, get the products, get the people, send and fly everything and everybody there, set it up, tear it down, send it home or on to the next show, and do all that on time and on budget. And that's where we spend 95% of our time. So what I found is the companies who really make trade shows rock spend more time on the critical success factors. And here's the top 4. Number 1, outcomes. If any of you have read Stephen Covey's excellent book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you know that habit number 1 is begin with the end in mind. So what we want to do in our first step is define our outcomes. And all of us have reasons for exhibiting: brand awareness, customer meetings, product presentations, lead capture, thought leadership, new product introduction, whatever those reasons are. But the problem is we don't convert those reasons to goals, and we don't back those goals up with written action plans that are communicated to everybody involved, and then we don't have measurement in play. So the first critical success factor is outcomes, exhibiting by objectives, EBO. We're trying to support those core goals and take advantage of the many opportunities that the Student Housing Conference presents for us. So that's our first critical success factor. The second one we're going to really take a deep dive on together here today: selective attraction. So we've got to identify who are the right people, how much is enough, and what are we going to do between now and when we arrive at the conference so we're in their mind and on their agenda. Selective attraction. That's what we're really going to tackle today. The third critical success factor is the visitor experience, which really encapsulates 3 functional areas of your exhibit. It is the physical exhibit property itself. It is your service or product presentation demonstration, and it is your staff, your people. So it's booth, product presentation, staff. We got to manage all 3 of those. The end game is a high quality visitor experience that gets that person to commit to a clear, visible next action. That's our third critical success factor. Number 4, lead management and measurement. So we've got to follow up with all these people we interacted with and got commitments from to get them to take action, ideally purchasing, and then we got to measure and we got to report results, whether it's to ourselves, a boss, owner, partner, or manager. So here's the question I would pose to you right now. When you look at these 4 critical success factors, if you had to score your company's current level of execution on a 1 to 5, 5 is very effective, a 1 is ineffective or not even really dealing with it, what score would you give your current program on a 1 to 5? Because here's the big idea. If you do these 4 things well, you will succeed at every exposition you attend. If you neglect any one or any combination of these 4, you're going to struggle. You're not going to get what you could and should be getting from the big investment of human and financial capital. Okay? So score those on a 1 to 5. And wherever you scored below a 5, continually study, continually learn, continually apply. And there will come a day that what you're getting from trade shows will blow your mind. I've seen it happen. I know it's possible here. It's so exciting to work with a company and turn this thing around. And what I've discovered in 30 years of doing it, these are the critical success factors. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about selective attraction. Okay, something that's going on is that the attendees, people who are attending conferences and trade shows, their behaviors have changed, and a lot of exhibitors are not aware of these changes, or they haven't adapted their exhibiting strategy. Let me share a few of these behavioral changes with you. Number one, they tend to be registering closer to the show date. It used to be they might be registering 3, 4, 5 months ahead of the show. Today it's a lot closer. So that means that if we're going to work with NAA and access the pre-registered attendee list, which we should, then we've got to get our content and our marketing ready to deploy closer to showtime. Second, they're spending fewer number of total days at the event. Now, this doesn't mean they don't value the attendance. It just means like you, me, and everyone else, they're having to do more with less. They're wearing more hats. Their time away from the apartment complex is much more difficult to justify. So they've reduced the number of days at the event. They're desperately looking for content and take away practical, usable information. And they're looking squarely to you, the exhibitor, to deliver this quickly, interactively, in the exhibit. Number four, here's where we really start putting where the rubber meets the road. 3 out of 4 attendees arrive with an agenda. They know what educational sessions they're going to attend. They know what social events they're going to go to. They know where their blocks of time in the exhibit hall are. They have a hit list of exhibitors they plan on visiting. And on average, they only visit 26 to 31 exhibits. Now that is North American B2B trade show average. I would say at a conference like this, that's a smaller, more intimate conference, it's not that high. I don't know exactly what it is for this conference, but it's not that high. But here's the takeaway. They're not stopping at every booth. It's not possible. It's not happening. Okay? Now, here's another research fact. Half of their exhibit visits or stops are pre-planned. Now, I want you to let all this sink in for a moment and think about what I just shared with you and what does it really mean, okay? What does it really mean to you? What does it mean, right? Well, in spite of all this stuff, I can tell you this, less than 20% of exhibitors execute a well-conceived pre-show marketing plan. 80% of exhibitors do what I call exhibit by hope. They rent space, they show up, and they hope. Fastest way to turn your trade show program around is get in the mind, get on the agenda of enough of the right people. That's what we want to do. So how do we do that? I think that raises the great question. Well, what I've been working on for the last 25 years now as a consultant trainer is developing structure and process that is replicable and scalable for a company of any size. I don't care if you're a startup with 2 people, if you're an established Fortune 500 company. The process is the same, and it works because I've applied it in different companies of different sizes in about every industry you can imagine. And when it's applied, it works. It works. So let's get into it. Number one, the first thing you got to do is get crystal clear as to what your exhibiting goals are and try to drill it down to your top 3. 3 outcomes, 3 goals, 3 reasons. That's the starting point. Okay, so why are you exhibiting? I want you to define that in writing. In fact, I think there's space in your workbook to jot down your top 3 reasons. Okay, now remember I said earlier, you can't stop with reasons alone. You got to convert them to goals. You got to create a written action plan. You have to communicate to everybody on your team. You have to execute, and you have to set checkpoints, measurement points. And if you do that, you're exhibiting by objectives. If you only have reasons, you're exhibiting by hope. It's a big difference in the outcome you get from the show. Clarity is power. Focus is power. Execution is power. That's what we're trying to do, be empowered exhibitors. Okay, so number 2, we want to define who are the right people for you. Typically, not everybody that attends an exposition is your ideal visitor. So you got to figure out who is, right? So what I want you to do here is create a profile. Define your ideal visitor by the type of company, the type of property, the job function and title, the geographical region or areas that are most important to you. Maybe size plays a role in terms of the number of units or the number of buildings or the number of residents, whatever, size, and anything else that you can use to define. And I want you to create in writing this at a broad brush stroke. This is what our ideal visitor looks like. Okay, and you'll see some of the demographics on the screen here from the Student Housing Conference. Okay, now, there's another thing I want you to do when you define your ideal visitor. I want you to work with your sales, your distribution channel, however you get your product services in front of customers, and I want you to use a strategy we call CPS, Customer, Prospect, Suspect. Make a list of all existing customers who are going to be at the event, likely to be aware of the event, and are within geographical striking distance of the event. Invite them to the show. Here's the rule. Never go into a key trade show without reaching out and touching your existing customers that are relevant to that venue, that event, and that geography, because if you don't, your competition will. And the worst thing that you can have happen is a key customer of yours end up at the Student Housing Conference as a result of an invitation from a competitor, and you did nothing. I have many exhibitors that tell me, they say, Jefferson, I don't want to invite my customers to the show. And I just tell them, I say, hey, your customers are like Janet Jackson. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, Janet Jackson sung a song once, what have you done for me lately? You've got to know today that customers are using trade shows. Write this down, by the way, big takeaway. They're using trade shows to revalidate existing buying relationships. Is there better? Is there faster? Is there easier to operate? Easier to integrate? Greener, cleaner, safer, cheaper? They're using trade shows to revalidate. So always put together a list of customers. Always invite them, whether you think they're coming or not. And there's different objectives, from relationship management to probing for additional opportunity within the account, cross-selling, upselling, to change who's coming, who's going, what improvements are being done to the properties, mergers, acquisitions. It's amazing the stuff people will tell you when they're at a conference exposition that they might not tell you when they're out there in the day-to-day. It's even more amazing what they'll tell you after a glass of wine or two, which happens a lot at shows, right? Advocacy. You probably have customers that love you, that would stand on the tallest mountain and sing your company's, scream your praises from the top of the mountain. Get them to the show, okay? Now, that's your first target group. Your second group, the green, and this is where the quick cash flow is. I've had many companies pay for their trade show 5, 10 times over before they walk off the show floor by getting their sales team to actively bring prospects who are in the sales funnel for one purpose, move them or advance them to the next step. So you're going to want to have your sales team put together a list of customers. I would target active and inactive and prospects that are in the sales pipeline. Then suspects are your profile match. It's what we talked about. We have one goal here. Put a face with a face. Get a meeting of the minds and get a committed next step. So how do you use the CPS strategy here? It's real simple. I would ask your sales team to sit down and build a list of customer prospects and suspects. For each name on the list, I would have them set an objective for the interaction and an outcome. I would ask them to reach out 3 times minimum to try to get either a confirmed appointment or a verbal commitment. And if you really want to get everybody dialed in on this, put a contest in play. The account executive that gets the highest percentage of their CPS to the student housing conference and to our booth wins X. Now you're going to have a team of really focused, really excited sales and business development people coming to the show and bringing high-value interactions, not just hoping that enough people register and hoping that enough show up, but controlling your fate and your destiny. Okay, so got a question for you, my second poll of the day as we work our way through this content here. You know, most shows, NAA makes them available, like pre-registered attendee lists. Here's a question. Do you acquire and use pre-registered attendee, whether it's mailing, email, whatever the lists are? Do you acquire and use them, yes or no? Fastest fingers, click the radio dial button that applies. All right, we are at about 90%. We're at 100%. Thank you. Let me share the results. Excellent group. This is one of the highest scores I've seen. 67% of you do, 22% of you sometimes, 11% of you don't. We're going to talk right now about the best list sources, and that 11% who said they don't might want to reevaluate that position. Hey, your best list source right out of the gate is the pre-registered attendee list. They've registered, they're planning on coming. You often have access to demographics and contact information. Why would you not get that list, right? Previous or post-show attendee lists. The average attendee only goes to 2 shows a year. They're pretty loyal about which 2 they go to. Last year's or the post-show list is an extremely good source. Next, your house list. Customer, prospect, suspect. People that have visited your booth at this show and similar shows that are within geographical striking distance. Anybody who's reached out to your company in the last 60 to 90 days who are likely to be around this event. If you sell through dealers, distributors, resellers, trade publication readership lists. Okay, so NAA makes available the pre-registrant and post list, and it's ridiculously cheap. It's $120. And what's amazing here, and this surprised me, is that it also includes email address for those who opted in. It doesn't include it for those who opted out. Now, if you're an NSC member, you get this list for free. If you're not an NSC member, it's $120. You'd have to be crazy not to get that list and use that list, okay? So make sure that, now what I'm asking you to do here is look internally, look externally, compile what list you're going to use into one master list for the show, okay? Now, grab your pen, grab a calculator, okay? We're going to do something important here. Trade shows are about face, and trade shows are about next. It's about face, putting your company identity, your products, your staff face to face, and it's about what happens next. So you can define what your capacity for exhibit interaction is. So here's how we do it. We take the number of exhibiting hours in the show. The student housing conference has 5 hours. That's not a lot of time, right? But you can get a lot done in those 5 hours. Next, I want you to multiply it by the number of booth staff that will be in your booth. The staffing rule of thumb is 2 staffers per 10 by 10 space. If you're going to cram 4 or 5 or 6 staffers in your 10 by 10 booth, you're going to have a problem. I'll tell you what the problem is. There's going to be no space for visitors. No space. And it's going to look real intimidating to walk in or near your booth, especially if you're all wearing the same shirts. Okay? So 50 square feet per staffer is the rule. Now you multiply those 2 together and you have your capacity, which is the number of staff hours. Next, listen carefully to this. I want you to pick a number between 3 and 5. 3 is conservative, 4 is moderate, 5 is aggressive. And this is your target number of interactions per hour per staffer. When you multiply this all together, you have your magic number. Okay? So if I'm in a 10 by 10 booth with 2 people and I'm playing this conservatively, I have the capacity for 30 face-to-face one-to-one interactions during the exhibit hours. If I'm playing it aggressively, 5 interactions per hour per staffer, I have the capacity for 50 face-to-face one-to-one interactions. So here's the question. Who are the 30 to 50 best people, number 1? And number 2, what are you going to do between now and when the housing conference opens that when they hit that show floor, you're on their agenda? That's what I'm talking about here, exhibit interaction capacity. Now, going back to your list count, you want to try to make your target list count 3 to 5 times your exhibit interaction capacity. You're not going to get 100% response to your marketing, okay? 3 to 5 times. All right, let's do just one more quick poll here and then tear through the rest of this content in the short amount of time we have together today. I'd like to know approximately what percent of your exhibit budget do you typically allocate to promoting your exhibit? And by the way, this is confidential. I can't see your individual poll. So just go ahead and click whatever button applies. Is it 0? Is it 1 to 5? Is it 6 to 9? Is it 10 to 14? Or is it 15% plus? We're at about 80% have voted so far. If you haven't voted yet, please click the radio dial button that applies. We are at that 90%. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Let me share the results because I want you to see kind of what's going on. Well, 38% of us said we're not allocating anything. Well, I would direct you back to the slides on changing attendee behaviors. I would direct you back to the slide on the 4 critical success factors, and I would ask you to reevaluate that behavior. Okay, 50% of you are in the 1 to 5, and 13% of you are in the 15% plus. So why did I ask you that? Well, it's never by accident. I asked you that because I want to show you what the average exhibitor is doing. According to the Center for Exhibition Industry Research study, the average exhibitor allocates 13% to advertising and promoting their exhibit. Now, I learned years ago that if you want to be successful, find out what the average is doing, and don't do that, do better than that. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest here, 13% of you are already on board here, in step 4, that you allocate at least 15%, at least. Okay, so write down your total show budget, multiply it by 0.15 minimally, compare it to what you currently have allocated, and let's see where you stack up. Now, there are times when I will allocate even more. I might go 20, 25%. It's a big show. This is an intimate show, the Student Housing Conference. You know, we're going to have maybe 110, 120 exhibiting companies. It's a very intimate show, so it's not a big one. But there's almost all of us are in small inlines, 10 by 10s, maybe 10 by 20s. Maybe some of you don't like your location. You're looking at it and saying, I don't like where I'm at. Well, that would be a good reason to invest a little more. The big question is, how strong is the attendee match at this show? Because if that's the case, I would allocate more. Now, some of you are really tracking with me, and you're saying, hey, Jefferson, I get this. It's not me. It's my boss. Well, here's what I would show your boss, this slide right here. And here's what I would tell your boss. If we get enough of the right people to our exhibit, all these areas will end up as an investment. On the other hand, if we don't get enough of the right people to our exhibit, all these areas will end up as an expense. It's the difference between an investment that is positioned to deliver value and ROI or an expense. I would also take your boss back to the slide on changing attendee behaviors, given that the 76% pre-plan and 50% of the booths they stop at are predetermined before they get to the conference. I think it's important that everybody know that, okay? So step number 4, let's make sure that we're allocating enough resources here. All right. It's one thing to promote your exhibit. It's another thing to do it well. I go to about 40 to 50 trade shows a year. I get a lot of pre-show marketing from exhibitors. I get a lot of terrible pre-show marketing. I get emails that say, going to CEDIA, stop by booth 2484. Delete. Going to CEDIA, drop by our booth for free popcorn. Delete. It's not, I don't know who you are. I don't see a value proposition there. I'm busy like you are, right? Delete. So we got to think about our content. We got to use the AIDA formula: attention, interest, desire, action. So job 1 of anything that you mail, email, put on the web, put in print, post on social media, the first thing it has to do is it's got to grab me by the throat, figuratively, and say, hey, I'm talking to you, right? I got to see it. The average person gets 3,800 marketing impressions a week. They notice about 30. They engage with about 3. Think about those numbers. 3,800 impressions, 30 notices, 3 engagements. I want to be one of the 3. So I got to figure out, right, how am I going to grab your attention? At a trade show, NEW, new, is your single biggest drawing card. If it's new, it's a magnet. Now, if you sent me an email, said, going to NAA, want to learn more about the latest breakthrough, want to learn about the latest breakthrough in property management software, latest breakthrough, new, you got me. Problematic. If you sent me an email that said NAA, tired of trying to integrate 7 different software solutions to get one outcome, I'm telling you, if that problem is relevant to me, I'm reading your email. If it's familiar, I'm going to read it. If it's unusual, I'm going to read it. So that's it. So what I would ask you to do to come up with your hook is to get with your sales and your product team and your marketing staff and ask what situations would prompt someone to think about what we offer. And then I integrate those situations into my pre-show marketing. How long does it take you to get a potential tenant approved? Good hook, right? That's a problem if it takes too long, right? Whatever your hook is, okay? The value proposition that you're trying to create and deploy through as many channels as you can, that's what I'm asking you for. I want to see a sizzling value proposition. I want to see an irresistible value proposition. Here's the template of what it feels like. Tired of this? Worried about that? Struggling with this? Interrupt. Grab my attention. Or you could do it on the opportunity side. Interested in, curious about, want to know more about. Problem or opportunity. And maybe you do both. Maybe through some channels you dangle the problem, through others you dangle the opportunity. And track which one resonates most with your audience. Give us 5 minutes at NAA Student Housing, booth number 123. You'll see, you'll do, you'll learn. Learn, circle that word. Big reason they go to events. There's only 3 reasons people go to shows, really. Networking, learning, and sourcing. That's it. Networking, learning, sourcing. So if you can dangle a learning component to your experience, especially at a conference, okay, like this, it's going to drive people to your booth. Oh, by the way, by visiting us, we got something for you. That's the value proposition right there. And if you can find your voice on that and articulate that through as many channels as possible, you're going to have a booth full of qualified visitors. And that's what we're talking about here at the end of the day, right? Okay, now, you know how I talked about marketing in your to your customer prospect lists and why it's so important and how it can drive fast ROI? Well, NAA is doing something really cool this year at the Student Housing Conference. You're being given a complimentary attendee code that you can use in your marketing. Okay, and if you will use this unique code that is unique to your company as part of your marketing, it will drive people to the registration page for the exhibitor at Student Housing Conference that brings in the most new attendees. You're going to get a half-page 4-color ad in Units Magazine. That's a $6,000 ad. So make sure that you use that attendee registration code in your marketing. Now, for your attendees, and it's very important that you let them know by using this code, they have the chance, okay, they're going to be entered into a drawing to win a complimentary upgrade to their room. Now, they will have already bought their room, but we're going to upgrade them to a suite at the Hyatt Regency, okay, and that'll take place on Tuesday, February 7th. So make sure to integrate this code into emails, mailers, wherever you're going to use it, maybe even social media, wherever you're going to use it, right? Because anybody new who registers is going to put your company in, and the exhibitor who brings in the most is going to basically get a $6,000 reward. Pretty good stuff, right? All right, so let's take just a quick moment here and catch our breath and kind of figure out what's on your mind. I'm throwing a lot at you here, and these first 5 steps were foundational steps, meaning getting your thinking together. What are your goals? Who's your audience? What list sources are you going to use, internal, external? What's your budget? And what's your value proposition? What's your hook? What's your message? Okay? There's a few questions in the queue, and I'm going to come back to those, but if anybody else online has, please submit now. Remember, you can also submit at any time during the webinar. So just for the sake of time, I want to make sure I get through our next 3 steps, and we will definitely be finishing on time here today. So let's keep rocking. All right, now what we have to do in step 6, all that thinking we did in steps 1 through 5, we got to bring it together. We have to analyze and select what media we're going to use. And here's my 4 C's. Like every day, you should take a little bit of vitamin C. We should take 4 C's for marketing our exhibit. Number 1, your message has got to be captivating and a consistent delivery and design theme. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a moment. Second, do not try to win the race with a one-legged horse. It rarely turns out well. It's hard to win a race with a one-legged horse. You should be using a combination of show-specific media, housing, student housing industry media, and direct marketing media from your company to your target. You should be using a combination. Number 3, all you communicate in the pre-show is your value prop. What we do, why they should care, the reason to visit, who you are, and where and how to find us. You don't tell your whole story. Otherwise, why do they need to come see you? They don't, right? So don't tell your whole story. You're trying to grab attention and build interest and desire to come visit, right? And then it seems to work best if you'll be creative in the frequency and the media you use to land 3 direct touches or 3 direct hits as you lead up to showtime. And it seems to work best when those 3 touches come through multiple media. We're back to the chart again. How many different media can you and should you be using here? Okay. Now, media tends to fall into baskets or buckets. First, you've got your print and your display, and this would be in trade publications and the Units magazine, and then this would be at show media too, if a show program or conference directory, meter boards, signage, stuff like that. Then PR, targeting the media, and then the electronic media basket, which is your website, which is the show web, which is social media, which is the mobile app, which could be landing pages, which could be emails, all of this stuff. And then here's the one hardly nobody's using. Direct mail. The clutter in the mailbox is really light. It's a super smart way to get kind of non-intrusively. And then personal contact from your sales team. Reach out and touch somebody. Pick up the phone and call somebody, okay? And ideally, you will be doing 1 or 2 things in all 5 of these. If you do, you're executing an integrated pre-show marketing and at-show marketing campaign. Now, there's some high-impact, low-cost options that you want to consider adding to your campaign. What I like about mail today is the ability to personalize with digital printing, oversized postcards that have personalization, tying a personalized URL, integrating it into your marketing content that pulls them to a landing page microsite, setting up a landing page or a microsite that has needs assessment tools and enables the visitor to set an appointment in your booth. Video emails, recording short teaser videos, uploading them to YouTube, putting them in your emails, putting them in wherever they can be visible on social media. Voice messaging, not robocalling, but voice messaging. Social media, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and blogs, your blogs, and also linking up with subject matter experts' blogs. So how many of these media should you be using? As many as you can, right? So I'm going to have Heather come on for a moment. NAA has some free stuff. We just want you to be aware of it. So Heather, give us a quick overview of what free opportunities exhibitors have at the Student Housing Conference.
Sure. So with your booth purchase, you automatically get a basic online My NAA Planner listing. So anytime that we promote the planner to attendees, that's really just getting them to map out who they want to visit on the exposition, what sessions they want to attend, things like that. You get access to the exhibitor dashboard where you can update your company listing. And then you can also purchase upgraded packages if you want to put a press release or a banner or video, things like that, just to be kind of a featured exhibitor. Booth prizes, if you're giving out anything on the show floor and you'd like us to promote it, there's a prize drawing form in the exhibitor dashboard. Fill that out, send it to us. If you get it in before the deadline of the program guide, which is towards the end of January, we'll promote it in the program guide, and then we'll also promote it on on-site signage. So you conduct the prize at your booth, but we'll just do the promotion for you. If you have any clients that just want to attend the exposition, you do get complimentary passes that you can send to them. So again, it's just access to the hall only, no sessions. And then the social media, which I highly encourage you all to use. We actually have tools in the exhibitor dashboard that you can use promoting that you're an exhibitor. You can put on your website and again on any of these social media channels.
Excellent, Heather. What I would add to this free opportunity is what we mentioned a moment ago too, is your attendee registration link, the unique link for your company. There's no charge for that. And again, by integrating that into your campaign, if you get the highest number of new attendees to the event, it's a $6,000 ad for free. So I would include that too. So make sure you use all this free stuff here. It's very powerful. I would spend much thoughtful time on writing my company listing too. It's not just to tell who you are. Your company listing, somebody should read that listing and go, oh, I got to add this to my show planner. Right? That's exactly the action you want them to take. So don't just say who we are and what we do, and we've been in business since 1912. You know, it's give them a reason within your listing to come see your booth. So Heather, also NAA has different paid advertising and sponsorship opportunities. Is there anything you want them to know about what's available over here?
I mean, we offer a number of different ways to really help you guys pre-show. So you can purchase an ad that's printed in the program guide. I talked about the My NAA Planner, your company listing. You can upgrade that to include the video or banner. The Exhibitor Passport program, which is what we're raffling off, it's a $250 value. It's limited to 20 companies, so it's guaranteed traffic to your booth. And we do give away prizes once an attendee has visited all 20 booths. Then they're entered to win prizes throughout the trade show on Tuesday and Wednesday. We have lots of sponsorship opportunities available. We just launched a new sponsorship program. So any interest, you can reach out to myself, as Sharon is out of the office for the next week or so on holiday. And then the whole thing that Jefferson's really been highlighting too is access to the pre-conference registration list. You know, if you're NSC member, which is National Suppliers Council member, you get the list complimentary 4 weeks prior to the show. If not, you can purchase it for that flat rate of $120. So again, we'd really like to see you guys utilize this. We're providing the information for you guys, so not many exhibitors use it. So if you do, then you would definitely stand out.
For sure, yeah. You know, in the average show, Heather, I talked with Experience recently, who does registration for many of the leading trade shows, and they told me that in the average show, only 7% of exhibitors acquire and use the pre-registered attendee list. I find that mind-blowing. 7%, 93% don't. Remember our rule of success. So here's my advice to everybody listening here today. View Sharon and Heather and everybody at NAA as your marketing partner. Their goal is to help you succeed. That's why they do all this. That's why they do the event. That's why they're doing these webinars. And so sit down and define your goals. Define your target audience. Define your budget. And then reach out, and say, hey, here's what we're doing. How can you help us? And they'll be happy to kind of, understand your budget, your goals, and your audience, and help you put together a really good campaign that builds your awareness in the marketplace and drives qualified traffic to your booth. So let's keep going. We got a few minutes to go here. Thanks, Heather. I appreciate the overview and everything you do to make this program work. So now it's time to put it all together, right? We've walked through. Now we got to execute. The first 6 steps were really, now we were in analyzing and selecting media. So here's a way that I like to think about it. One text. So I'm in a 10 by 10 booth. I'm a member, so my booth investment is $2,000 for floor space. The budgeting rule of thumb is the floor space times 3 to 5. So I'm going to be investing $6,000 to $10,000. I'm going to pull 15% minimum of that, and I have 2 goals. I'm really trying to increase my visibility and awareness. I want to drive booth traffic to generate leads that I can follow up and convert to sales. So what would a campaign kind of look like for me? Okay, I would be running the CPS strategy, okay, that I said. I would have my sales team, customer, prospect, suspect, and there's 0 cost on your end to do that. That's a no-brainer. Next, I would be both using my house list and the pre-registered list, and I'd be putting together 3 well-written emails. I'd be sending those emails out at 40 days, 20 days, and 5 days before the show with those 3 emails. I would do an oversized postcard that has the NAA student housing logo with a real strong headline, my bullets, and a call to action and a reward. And I would want that postcard to arrive in their mailbox about 10 days before showtime. Then I would be using my social media, and I would be engaging any and all of NAA's social media channels. I would really spend the time on writing an exhibitor listing that delivers a compelling reason to visit. I would take the show logo, and it would be on my website. It would be in my staff's email signatures with my registration code. If I'm doing newsletters, it's going to be there. I would be promoting it in all of my social media and all my outgoing correspondence. The print guide, the attendees not only use it to navigate their time at the show, but it's also got a 1-year shelf life. So I would be putting an ad in the program guide. And finally, I would be upgrading my NAA planner listing because it's going to give me video and banner. And I'm going to get free lead retrieval for doing that, which is typically lead retrieval is about $400. And so this would be an example of what a campaign looked like for a small exhibitor in a 10 by 10 space with these two goals, this budget range. And you can do all that within the range we talked about here. So what does an effective campaign look like? So if I'm going print, right, you would see this in Units Magazine. You would see it in the official show directory in print. I would have a colorful with a strong headline, a clear call to action, and linkage to the show. I would be carrying that design theme messaging over into a personalized postcard mailer with a pearl. And then I would be doing a 2-part personalized pre-show email, again carrying the HTML banner into with my value prop and my clear call to action. I'd be integrating my pearl. And then I would have my landing page or microsite set up so they could go there and I could capture some data and print out a bring this to the show, bring this to my booth. And that would be an example of using web, email, mail, and print to really deliver and integrate it. I'd make sure I carried this imagery, messaging, and design theme all the way through to my exhibit. My exhibit would be the mirror of all this. So here we go. Here's our final step. I'll take a few questions and we'll wind this down. Measure, okay? You do this to build a replicable, scalable system. So just write down what media you used, when each media was deployed and how many times, how many were emailed, mailed, printed, or distributed. Then what was my cost associated with each channel that I used. And then I'm trying to track the number of impressions, open rates, click-throughs, things like that, tweets, retweets, new friends, new followers. And I'm trying to trace the response to everything I'm doing by having a clear call to action. When you use the attendee registration code, we're going to give you, we'll know who registered. So that'll help you trace too. And then I'm going to step back after the show and I'm going to look at the whole thing. What worked? What can I learn from this? And how can I take this and really turn it into a process that I can use, just rinse and reuse for every show going forward. So we've covered a lot of ground in a short time here. We've talked about why pre-marketing is critical, how attendee behaviors have changed, and we've walked you through an 8-step proven process. Remember, this is really just the beginning. There's a lot of content up on the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. So with that, if you're going to log off right at this minute, watch your email, and please be sure to complete that survey. You're going to have a really high odds of winning the Exhibitor Passport, 250. With that, I'm going to look in the question queue, and I'm also going to toss it back to Heather for any closing comments. Heather?
Yeah. So I hope you guys found this very beneficial. It is recorded. It will be posted on the Exhibitor Resource Center, and I'll also include it in the next Exhibitor Update email. And then the exhibitor codes that Jefferson has been referencing, we will be sending those out next week. So those will go directly to your exhibitor contacts, and then from there you can share them with your team. And then again, we'll conduct the raffle after everyone has taken the survey, and then we'll announce that next week also.
Excellent. I've got a question for you, Heather. Does the exhibitor listing, is there a word cap on that? Is there a max number of words they can have?
There is in the company description, but I think that was removed because we no longer print the company description and the program guide. So I think that was removed. Okay, so yeah, that's a look into thing on the number of words. There's 3 more questions. I think they're in my wheelhouse. Question number 1 is, when's the best time to begin your pre-show campaign? How far ahead of the show? The bigger the show, the farther out you want to be.
With a show like this that's happening in mid-February, if I could get a solid touch to my targets before the holidays, I would do it. And then I would really ratchet things up in that January, February window. It's also a function of media, too. If you're using print media, you're going to want to start about 3 months prior, 3, 2, 1. If you're using direct response media, email, mail, social media, you want to really kick it into high gear about 45 days and then have it ratchet up in intensity as you get closer to the show. Next question, what giveaways do you suggest? Are there certain giveaways that work better than others? There are. Here's the key things to think about with giveaways: unique, useful, and supports a message or a theme. I don't want to just give away another cheap pen and end up in somebody's pocket. I want to give away something that's unique, something that's useful, and something that would support a theme. And there's a lot you can do in that area, but I think that's really good guidance right there. Last question was, I missed the answer of try to make your list count at least 3 to 5 times is the answer there, your list. So if you have the capacity for 50 interactions in your booth, you'll want your lead count to be 150 to 250 names deep. And that's all I have. So I want to thank everybody for investing time with us. Please be sure to watch your email for that survey link. And on behalf of Heather and everyone at the National Apartment Association and me, Jefferson here, and my company, Competitive Edge, we really appreciate you being an exhibitor. We really appreciate you showing up today. And we look forward to seeing you at the Student Housing Conference very soon. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for logging in.